Hello there. Today we're going to discuss about Apex application development interface. Remember that we created workspace, admin user, and an application in our earlier video. In this video, we're going to share some basic information about the application development interface. In this video, I like to share some unique experience that I experienced, which you will not probably you're not going to get from any Oracle documents. This is my understanding of the application development interface and how I experienced in my last 4 or 5 years of Apex development and experience. How I understand the application development of Apex. Now I want to share this. So let's begin with our discussion. Let's log into the Apex workspace that we created previously, which is called WSHR. Let's begin. Let's click in application builder. You see, we created an application earlier, which is called APP-HR. To create a new application, you have to click on the create, and what we created is in last video. In import, you can import an existing application to this server into this Apex server. You can use import. So you see, Apex is a develop anywhere, deploy anywhere application. No matter where the database is, Windows or Linux or AIX or any other platform, and no matter where the application server is, no matter where the database is, anywhere you can develop it and anywhere you can deploy it. Does not really matter about the environment and the hardware of the system. So it's very convenient. And also, you see, I am not using any kind of development interface other than my web browser. So it's a very easy way, very convenient way, and very readily available tools that you have. You can create any application with Apex with no time. Okay, so let's begin with APP-HR. Let's click. See, we have only created the application. There is nothing we have created yet in the application. And this is the home page, and this is the login page, which was by default created while creating the application. So let's see how it looks like when I run it. You see here is the run button, or you can run it from here. How does it look like? It's a login page. Let's log in. Here's the simple page. You see here, you have to understand the URL. What does the URL mean here? You see a lot of things are written here. We have to understand what does it mean, which part means what. This one is the IP of the server, of the web server. Okay, our Apex is deployed in Apache Tomcat. Now this is the IP of the Apache Tomcat server. Okay, this is the IP. This is the port number of the Apache Tomcat. Okay, let's see if it is the port number of the. Just copy it. Apache Tomcat. You see, server and port. This is the Apache Tomcat. Okay. Now this is the ORDS. You know, we deployed Oracle Apex in Apache Tomcat through ORDS. So we configured that. So for beginning with the Oracle Apex development, you must come to this point. So this is the after the Oracle web server part, this is the web server's IP of the web server, or it can be hosting of the web server, FQDN, fully qualified domain name, and then the port, and then it is the gateway to the Apex interface. Okay, let's go there. Okay, now this is the Apex. Okay, now you see our application. Now if question P equals 100, that means we have an application which ID is 100. Okay, now you enter here. See, this is the application ID. Okay, 100 is the application ID. So whenever you go to up to if question P is equal to 100, the application ID, then you will have this login page. You see, this is also now you can see this. Now let's move here. This is our home page. You see, this is the application ID, and this is the page ID. This is the page ID, and this one is the session ID. Okay, now if I copy this part and then paste here, see, to 1, then again it's asking for login. Why? Because you see, session ID here is different than the session ID here. So these two are not the same session. Okay, that's why it's asking for a new login. So the session state values of the interface of the Apex are identified by the Apex engine by its session ID. Okay, this is the session ID. This is a random number generated automatically from Apex. Whenever you log in, this is the session ID. Whenever you log out, this ID is gone, and whenever you log back in, then new new session ID is created. We can change a little bit here. For example, let's move to application. Now you see in here you can edit application properties. Now you see this is called alias application. Okay, our application alias is test app. Okay, test app. Now we are going to apply changes. Now let's see how it looks like. If you run it, how does it? Okay. Now you know, if I just do it, if question P is equal to test app, now what happens? Same as when you see it is changed to 100. See? Now, so this is how you can actually rather than remember the application ID, you can remember the application alias. And now let's move to page development interface. Home. Apex 5 has a new development style which is called page designer. This is the page designer. You see, these are the region positions. Okay, these are the region position that are available in Apex page, and these are the properties of the region, and these are the items to be used in this region. Basically, we're not gonna discuss in detail about page designer. We're gonna actually discuss the page in component view. This is how you do it. Okay. We're in the component view because this is the basic development interface of the Apex since when I started working with Apex from 3.2 up until now. This is there, and in Apex 4 they also had something tree view called tree view. But to be honest, I like this view the best, and I am pretty much familiar with this interface. I am basically a component view designer of the page. You see, we are developing. We are actually in the page one. You see, nothing is there. There is no item, only page level, some page name, title, application default templates, and something like that, and nothing is there. Now, and no region, no page processing, anything. Now you see it clearly application rendering, page processing, and shared document. These are the three components the page is divided into. You see, in the from at the very left, it is called page rendering, and this is called page processing, and then shared component. What does page rendering mean? Page rendering actually means the populating your page with HTML items and values and database values in the items. Okay. Now, and the flow of this rendering is from server to the client. Okay. From the server, Apex items are thrown to the client browser along with the data associated with those items. Okay, this is the simple thing about page rendering. Now you see, there is a sequence in everywhere. In every development phase, you will face sequence. Either you see it or not, but there is sequence in every item or page and everything. And also the arrangement of the items like page, region, buttons, items, computation, processes, and dynamic actions. These are the things that you see. This is coming from top to the bottom. So that means page information will be loaded, will be rendered first. Okay, on top of everything, the page information. Then regions. If there are 2, 3, 4 regions in a page, then these regions will be rendered. Then the buttons, which are basically on those regions. So first page, then region, then buttons will be rendered on the page, and then the items, and then computation means something like we're not going to discuss computation in detail here, but we're going to say something, a very basic thing. Computation is nothing but PLSQL or SQL process or blocks of code or any action that works to render some value of an item or something like that while rendering the page. Okay, the same computation is also in the page processing. We'll discuss it later. Processes actually similar, but there's a difference between computation and processes. And again, dynamic actions. We're going to create a region. Okay, it will be okay. Static content is just to show, just to demonstrate how it works. Okay, static content. Next, let's name it test1. Test1. We're going to create many as many as 2 only. Okay, next. Then next. Output HTML. Next. No condition right now. Next. See, we have created a region called test. Now let's dig deep here. Click on the test. Okay, identification, source, nothing is there. User interface, it's very important. See, you have a sequence number. This sequence number is managed by Oracle Apex. You actually need not do in most of the cases you need not do anything here. In some cases you might handle this sequence number. Now you see this is the sequence number. Okay, now let's see how it looks like. This is the region we created, simply the region. Okay, now we'll create another region. Same text content, static content. Now let's name it test2. Test2. Next. 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 Okay, great. Now you see test1, test2 are created. Now let's dig deep into test2. You see it has the sequence number 20. Now let's see how it looks like. See, test1 is first and test2 is second. Why didn't the test2 come first and then test1? Because they have different sequence number, and the lower sequence, the region that contains the lower sequence number will appear first. Okay, now let's test our claim. 20, let's make it 20 and then make it just switch the sequence number. Now let's apply changes. Let's see which one comes first. See, test2 is coming first and test1 is coming second. Now, why I'm discussing in these things this one might not seem to be very important, but believe me that I have faced many situations where sequence number and the sequence of the execution and the sequence of the rendering of the pages and the items is so important. So in some cases you will stuck, you will have no clue what's really happening, and the solution remains in the sequences. Okay, so keep in mind it's very important. Now let's change it to the original position 20 and then make it 10 again. Okay, now run it. Then again test 1 is on the top and test 2 is on the bottom. So item region, any of the item, any of the object is present in the web page that has the lower sequence number will appear in the page earlier than the one that has the sequence number higher than the earlier one. Okay, so sequence number is very important. If I create items, for example, you can create multiple items here. We're going to create multiple items. Okay, let's test 1, then test 2. Okay, create multiple items. Items have been created. It's going to be created now. Items are created. Now we're running. See, test 1 and test 2. Test 1 is appearing first and test 2 is appearing next, and because of the sequence number, yeah, only because of the sequence number. Now let's just shuffle the sequence number. Now let's make it 20 and then make it see, test 2 is appearing first. Okay, in this component view you can visibly know which item or region is going to appear first. That's why I actually like this interface, this type of development interface. Now come to page processing. What does page processing mean? Now the traffic is from client end to the server. In rendering, the traffic was from server to the client, and now the traffic will be client to the server. Okay, web browsers, for example, a form where you enter the data, fill in the items, and then you submit the page. And at that time, when you submit the page, these jobs are done. For example, computation, validation, process, branches, etc. For example, what does computation mean? Computation means filling up an item automatically, which you actually do not provide directly, but via a rule that you set in a computation, and that element is set automatically. You do not have to enter anything. Number one. What is the validation? Why the validations are used? The validation is used, for example, for you have checked for a primary key. You have generated a primary key, and now you're gonna check whether this primary key is already in the database. So you create a process here, you create a PLSQL code here, and that will test your primary key constraint in the database, and then reply you a message if there is a problem. If there is no problem, it will not give you any message, and like this. And then comes the processes. Now this process actually will submit the whole entire record to the database. So when the value has been set, you enter the data, and then you set some of the information like login information and the user and the date, the current date with time of etc. Or you have to set these things. For example, up to the computation, these are set. Okay, up to this computation, all the values are set. Now you have to check whether these values set, the values that are set actually valid. Okay, so you have some many types of validations. Number one may be a simple null, not null type of validation, and number two may be database constant type validation. Number three, a business logic type validation. And now that values have been set into the forms and the validation has been complete, now it is time to submit. In that case, when you submit, the primary key values has to be set. Okay, so in that case, you're gonna create a primary key, and then you submit total data to the database, and those things will be done in the process. So why computation validation is earlier than the process? You see. So look into the process logically. Logically, that you set the values first, and then you check the validation, and then you submit. That's why you see in page processing, computation comes first, validation then, and then the processes comes. Okay. So in our in the discussion, you see when the values are validated, then comes to the primary key or the submit. Now it is fairly logical that after value is set and the validation is complete, the process can work on those data, because it is actually submitting the data to the from client end to the database. So it is very logically sequenced in this here. Now if you create computation more than one, in that case, similar to this sequence number, these computation will also have sequence numbers. So lower the sequence number will execute first, higher the sequence number will execute later. Similar for validation, similar for processes, and this will make a very important difference in understanding. If you clearly understand which process is gonna execute first, and which one is later, and which one you need first and which one you need later, you will sequence your processes and validations accordingly, and it will help you develop all the information develop application very easily. Now one example, for example, you're going to submit the data to the database. So you need two processes. Number one is the primary key, and number two, the submission of the data. So when you create a primary key, if you sequence the primary key higher than the submission of the data, the DML operation, then what you'll get? You'll get an constraint error, that primary key value has not been set and primary key value cannot be null, something like that. Okay, so because it's trying to submit the data to the database while primary key has not been set yet, which is sequenced later. Okay, now it's gonna submit the DML first, so it's not getting any value, so it is stopping there. So if I provide a validation on that ahead of processes, then this process will not be executed. It will stuck in the validation. That is why a validation is placed earlier the process. Okay, this is very important, and you have to understand it very clearly. Otherwise, it becomes very clumsy to understand why this one is happening, why this one is happening. I think many of you were new in Apex. You might face so much difficulties understanding these things. It is very important. Okay. Now comes to branches. What is branches? Branches, when you submit a page, the Apex wants to know to which page it's gonna branch to after the DML operation is successful. In most of the cases, in my application development, I tend to stay on that page only. But in other case you can also branch to other pages also. So after computation validation process, then you branch to another page or this page. So it is called branching. So main difference between page rendering and page processing is page rendering works from server, while rendering the page from server to the client, and in page processing from client to the server. When you submit the page, these computation validation processes and branches are executed according to the sequence specified in the page. Okay, this is the page processing. Shared component. A shared component are the components which are shareable throughout the application. In any page, you can share any shared component whenever you need it. Now let's go to shared component. There are many things in shared component. Basically, what are in the shared component? In the shared component, we have components that are shareable throughout the application. There are many things. For example, application items, application processes, list, tabs, navigation items, static files, reports, globalization, workspace references. All of these are shared components. Just remember, these are the components that are shareable throughout an application. Okay, so this ends our discussion of today's topic. In our next video, we will create a DML form page and we will discuss about various items in the form. So this is all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you, everybody.